right. Hello, everyone. Sorry for the delay. I'm actually messing around with my setup a little bit, or my office. It's been the same for like 6 years. So, I didn't want to move it too much because I got like sound panels where I normally talk, and then I've got my board over here that I don't really use that much, and so but I like the concrete facade background, so like I'm trying to figure that out a little bit more. Anyway, I was toying with it and my setup's a bit messed up, so hopefully you can hear me and see me okay to that point, because I do also have a new mic, so hopefully I sound a little bit crisper. Anyway, let me know in the chat how the audio and video is going, and let's pick up where we left off last week. So let me bring up PHP Storm. And I think today what we're going to focus on is, oh yeah, I can't even run serve because it's broken. Where is that? Let's get into smarter caching. So we just have this, if you're joining fresh, we just have this Laravel new app that I made to test out those like smart migrations for the Laravel Editions package I have. And we're kind of toying around with the error page, and I think if we look at this, I have that. So if we now do PHP Artisan serve, we should be able to get back, and I don't need to run composer run dev just because I don't need like to recompile, anything. So let's just run artisan serve, and let's get back into what I was kind of getting after here. So as I mentioned before, my like old school, well, let's back up. This is a beautiful new exception page in Laravel. Very nice, very clean, very open, very fresh, right? I wouldn't expect anything less of Laravel. This is beautiful. My only small thing when I first upgraded, because this came out in like, Laravel 12.22 or whatever, right? Or whatever, recently in the last few weeks is the point. I think we're on 12.34, but this came out in a minor release. So if you ran Composer Update and you got a new error page, you just started seeing this. And so for my old school PHP brain, when I see this, I'm kind of trained, right? As working with PHP for 25 years, I'm kind of trained, my mind is trained as a PHP programmer to parse that exception message and find what I care about. So I care about the exception that's thrown. I probably care a bit about the message, but what I really, again, my OG PHP brain, what I really care about is, well, what file and line number was this? And it's not, oh, is my screen not shared? Oh my God, we're full screen me. I'm so sorry. Okay, there we go. That should be picture in picture now. See, I told you something was wrong with my setup. Anyway, I'm sharing. Let's go back. Sorry, I didn't realize I wasn't sharing the screen. Okay, Ecamm Live. Thanks a lot. I know you're sharing screen. Thanks a lot. Max, Apple's like so informative now when anything's doing anything, which, I guess is nice. So, okay, let me back up. My, again, beautiful exception, now that we can see the screen, hopefully, beautiful exception message, beautiful exception page, but my OG PHP brain is used to parsing these exception message. I see the exception, I kind of get a bunch of stuff here, and then I kind of like immediately look for the line number, right? That's what my programmer brain does. That is not in the primary, what I would call the primary area of the page. It's not quote unquote above the fold. It's down here, and again, sometimes this points to the wrong place. In this case, it points to the wrong place, no big deal. But like up here, you kind of have information that, in my opinion's it's not as important as the line number, right? Like I mean, yeah, maybe. I mean, this is pretty static. This stuff's pretty static. It's not like it changes per request or per exception. Like, you're always going to be running that Laravel version. You're always going to be running that PHP version. You know, the code stuff's nice, unhandled. Well, of course. You know, so again, I think there's some stuff in here. I really want to see this clickable line number like right up here, right? So that's just where I am. I want to get into this page. We're just gonna hack around in the vendor folder. I want to get in this page. I'm not a designer. I don't know where this should go, but what I'm thinking is probably just like a muted subtext towards the end of the exception, right? And then just to get a PR going and see what people think. You can let me know what you think in the chat. But yeah, my brain just, which file, you know? And again, they got this beautiful thing where you can click into it, boom, it takes me right there. So that's awesome. Like, again, this page is awesome. But my old school PHP brain is like, as a PHP programmer for 25 years, I'm used to reading the file and line number, and it's not here. And that just really threw me off. That really threw me off. Maybe I'm just old. Maybe I'm a PHP boomer, but that threw me off. So let's get into this page. I think we found where they had like a file with line blade. Yeah, they had this little blade component where they dump this out. So if we kind of see where this is, and let's get into these resources, and let's just see where file with, yeah, here we go. So I want to see vendor frame, text direction, vendor frame. I'm trying to see, we might just have to search it by like what it is. Let's see where maybe that is, right? So let's look at resources, exceptions page. Let's find where this happens. There it is. So what we kind of want to do with the H1, and again, we might want to mess around with this, but let's just get it on the page. Let's just get it on the page right now and see how it looks, right? So yes, I know. Just let me edit all of it. Exception renderer, exception badge. I think it's all a little deeper down in here. It's got the request information. So header. Header, what is header part of? Header's got to be part of a larger page. Layout, maybe. Nope, just kidding. Routing, section, container, separator, syntax highlight, top bar, probably syntax highlight, right? Where do they use this? File, what do they call that? File with line? Yeah, here we go. Okay, so where is that used in this exception stuff? So file with line. It's used in vendor frame or frame. Laravel exceptions renderer, : : okay. Formatted source file with line. Frame direction equals right to left. Do they have a left to right? Did they have a left to right? No. Text extra small. What's this vendor frame? Formatted source. All right, well, let me just borrow this. We're hacking anyway. Let's just borrow this. Let's plug it right there and see what happens. Let's refresh this. Okay, frame, undefined variable. Look, that's interesting that you get, oh, we ran into this last time. We got the old school whoops page. I think you have to, PHP artisan, this is kind of a tricky thing, but you can run into this if you update and you have view cache for an exception page. You won't get the good stuff. So I think you have to view clear, I think. Let's try this again. Nope, just kidding. It's like if it can't render the new exception, it falls back to the old exception. I don't know what frame is. Maybe this has to be rendered in a lower place. Let's just take out frame and see what happens. Okay, so it's going to reference frame. How do we know What do we know? What do we know with the exceptions? So we call Laravel exception renderer badge. Can we get the frame? Frame. Is it set up here? Okay, props frame. Format. Okay, so this thing knows. Where is frame used? Colon frame. Trace. Okay, so the trace. A trace brings in the frame. We got props exception. I'm just trying to see if we have access to it. Okay, group frames frame. Okay, so that's gonna. Okay, so each. I guess they're calling each part of the stack phrase. I guess each. I'm assuming each part of the stack trace is considered a frame. If my CS brain is working, I think that's what we're talking about here. Okay, so we kind of just need to understand how these are structured. So if frame is main, if frame is snippet, props frame. This is deep stuff. So you got vendor frames, and then you got, I guess, R frames, your application frames. This is the code. So file with line. What I'm curious about is, do we need the frame? Or can we pass it? Can we build a frame and maybe pass it something else, right? Maybe. Let's see. Let's go back to where we were. The header. The exception has a message, right? Where's exception come from? I'm wondering if like exception can give you a frame. So we need to figure out what exception is. We'll have to get into the component to know that. So let's get into, where are these located? I always forget. I don't use a lot of blade components. Exception message. Where are you? Views? Nope. Renderer. Exception. Request, listener, base path. Is this right? Title, message, class, code, frames. Okay. So I could get the frames. Frame groups. Request. How would the exception not have a line number? Wouldn't it have... Shouldn't it just have the line number? Returns a collection. This exception get class. Okay, what is exception? Maybe we're just not. So flatten exception. Flatten exception. Where are you? Okay, it's got a code and a file and a line. Okay, does this stuff come out? To array. Get file. Okay, get file. Get line. Okay, great. So let's back up a second. Can we instead, just again, ugly, but can we instead say, you know, P, this isn't PR worthy, but let's just see if we can get it out with exception, get file, colon. Where are you? There we go. Get line. Again, this won't look right, but we want it to be associated with the current exception. We wouldn't even want to pull the frame because the frame is very specific to which frame you're clicking in your exception bit. So that kind of makes sense. So let's plop this out. View exception. Okay, so undefined method get file. Okay, so we don't have access to the exception directly. So let's add file and line. It doesn't delegate. So we have title, message, class, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, code. Okay. So what we would really need now is to pass through file, get file, line, get line. There we go. Okay, now it's not the same. I see why they're not. We talked about this in the last stream. I understand why they are not including it. They're not including it because this exception page, and as I said last time, with most exceptions, whether you're using like Oh Dear or Sentry or Honey Badger or whatever, they make an effort to look through the stack trace and try to give you the file in your application. Because the assumption is that you don't have an error in your vendor code, right? The third-party code that you're including in your application is not necessarily where the error is. You know, it gives them the benefit of the doubt, right? That's not code you're changing. So you made a change or you used something incorrectly. Now, this is where you have to make a decision. Do you use this, right? Do you pluck this out based on the same frame logic that they're using and kind of give them a mismatched thing? Because technically this was thrown down in here, right? Technically that was thrown down in there. So I feel like if you're going to show the file and line number that is for this exception, that's what you got to show. You got to show this one. I think that would be the right thing to do. We just need to make it, you know, linkable so you can actually click it just like you can this little stack trace one. So we would either need to find a way to leverage that component by passing it a frame. We can go see what a frame takes. Maybe we can build a frame. You know, that would probably be the thing to do is to make, instead of doing a method for file and line, we would do something like, you know, to frame, like exception to frame. And we would have that now to pass to that blade component. I think that would be the best course of action because that's going to give you the formatting. It's going to give you probably this truncating of this part. We can go take a look at that, but I think this is the right thing to do. And in fairness, this is not a common exception. Like I said earlier, even this page, the rest of this page, it's just pointing to the public index. That's not right. That's not where the error is happening. It's just the entry point to your application, because this is a low-level fundamental error. If we go introduce an error like we, you know, did at the end of the last stream, if we get down in here to like web or whatever, and I chop that off, this makes a lot more sense, right? That's the same as this. So I think a majority of the useful cases, that's going to be the same line. And this is kind of where I'm thinking, okay, put this up here with this, right? So that's where I'm not a designer. We'll have to figure that part out. But I think this is a much more common error. You forget a semicolon, you forget a curly brace, you got an undefined variable. These are things that are going to be in your app, and the hit rate for the exception is the same here. So I think what I'd like to do is spend a little bit of time figuring out what a frame looks like. So it's a collection of frames. So it seems like frames class map. Okay. So it seems like to me it does what we said. It builds up this class map to probably then make a frame based on the exception, class math frame data, base path, previous frame, okay. And then it loads it in there. That's interesting that the frame gets the exception. And then they kind of mark it, whether it's, yeah. Okay, so let's go look at this. It gets the exception, it gets class maps, it gets the frame information, base path, which is probably what's parsed out, right? So that gives it the chop out. it would need the class map. It needs the source, the editor, href. Yeah, see, this gives us a lot of stuff. I don't want to have to rebuild this. It does. There's some logic in here. There's even some logic to figure out if it's not a file or it's not readable, then there's no line number. You can start to see why they don't have this up here. The way this screen was built, it was built very specifically to show a line number as part of each frame. And you can kind of see some interesting coupling here that, to me, it's interesting that the frame has access to the higher level exception. Again, I'm not deep enough in here to make a judgment call, but it just, something about that feels weird to me. I would think if you have a method on the exception for frames, why does the frame have a back reference to that exception? You would already know because you have frames for that exception. So it seems interesting. It might not be getting saved or used down in the frame, but it's interesting. Something about this feels, it's not extensible, right? Like, same with the class map. I got to pass in the full class map for every frame. That doesn't seem to change, right? Here's the for each loop. It's not like the class map changes. It's constant. It only does it once. I appreciate it's wrapped in the once, but like, it's just interesting. It's interesting that these two things are kind of passed down in there. I would expect frame data and previous frame to really be the only thing passed down in here. Not even base path. Again, I understand why it is. It's convenient. But now I can't go make my own frame. Not without figuring out what the class path is. But anyway, we're here to hack it. So let's hack it. Let's spend like 5 minutes and hack it. All right, let's get back up here. Let's change this and do something like public function first frame, right? Maybe the first frame is the frames. Return new collection frames. Trace exception get trace. My assumption is that like they only call frames one time. So here, maybe we just do this. Return this frames first. Let's see what happens, right? Let's go back here, and instead of this, we'll just, DD is what I'm trying to do. This exception first frame. Let's see what this does. Okay, this. Oh, sorry. Duh. I'm not in the class anymore. I'm in the blade component. There we go. Okay, cool. All right. What does it get? Okay, base path. Cool. See, it's chumping out the base path. That's right. Where's our class map? Okay, yeah, we don't need that. What I want. Close. Whatever. That's gonna be huge. Let's refresh. Broke it. Let's try. Yeah, this exception is gonna be like huge and redundant. Or recursive is the right word. Let's dump frame, maybe? Let's just dump frame. Let's dump first frame. I'm trying to make sure that the first frame is actually ours. It might be the last frame. I don't know which order the stack trace is in. I also don't know if there's been any like scrubbing to it. Call to undefined method frame. Oh, sorry. I said frame and typed frame. I meant last. Call to undefined method last. Oh, we already have it. Sorry. Frame. It's just not a method. Unexpected end if. Oh, okay. I'm all over the place. Here we go. Cannot access protected property. Come on. Okay. Who can access it? You know what? Public. I just want to see. There we go. Okay, so it does know the first frame is correct for the purposes of what we're doing. So let's undo that. We got this first frame. So let's go back. Let's go back to this, and we'll pass it in frame equals this thing's first frame, right? Let's see if that works. Can you do it that way, or do you have to quote this? I don't remember. Yeah, I think you got to quote it since it's got the arrow. Or is it like a colon? Is it a weird thing? Is it like a colon syntax? Call to member function file on string. File on string. Call to member function file on string. Why are we? Oh, because we quoted it. What is the right? I don't use these enough. What is the right Laravel blade component pass object? Show me something. It's like an object attribute. Blade templates. Or no, wait, it's not blade templates, it's blade components. Components. Blade template components. There we go. All right, let's just see a more complex ability to pass it. Colon. Okay, colon. There we go. I knew it was a special thing. Here we go. Aha! Ah! Boom! Ha ha! There it is. Cool. Wasn't so bad. Wasn't so bad once we figured out how to kind of like leverage what existed. Yeah, there you go. Again, I think the spacing and all this stuff's a little bit off. We could definitely fix that. We could give this like a class of. We could tighten this up a little bit. I bet we could do like MT negative MT 2 maybe. Oh, we're gonna have to go composer run dev now if we're gonna start hacking this. Feet 20. Oh, I'm off by like. That's interesting. Does this still compile? Kind of. Does it have inspect? Does it get our stuff? Where is it? Truncate mono. Where are you? Here you are. Yeah, it took it. I think we're just not. I just don't think it's coming across. Yeah. So, I think if I updated node or npm, yes, I know, you're broken. That's why we weren't running composer run dev. Where's that little warning message? Upgrade your node. I don't think you can do, I have to upgrade that on the system, don't I? I don't think I can just do like node update. Can you? Didn't think so. Okay. Crap. I didn't realize, I thought I just updated node. See, you can do npm, you can't do node itself. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, I think this is good enough. We have a minimal set of changes here. We're basically saying give us the first frame. The only part that's a little bit annoying, if we go back and look, like where, let's just see if frames is referenced. See, that's kind of my point. Right now, they're only calling frames once for this page. To me, it seems like frames is potentially a expensive operation, let's call it. So I feel like that should probably get set and have a bit of a guard clause internally to kind of hold on to those frames. Again, this kind of demonstrates, this maybe is evidence to what I was saying earlier in the fact that like this was built to kind of match a design rather than like the development of it and then pieces where it's like, okay, well, how can we get the line number over here for each frame? Oh, we'll just put it in, you know, frames and we'll pass it. Okay, well, it doesn't know the exception. Okay, well, we'll just pass it the exception. Like, it was like, get it done. I think there's some refinement here, you know, and as with anything, again, not knocking it, as with anything, the first pass is never the most beautifully refactored, perfect pass, but frames is only called once. I think the point is the original developer probably knew it was only called once, and while they did make some optimizations to, you know, only load the class map, which would be huge once, I think there's now probably something where frames should probably just get tucked off, and then basically it's like you almost wrap this whole thing in a once. I don't know when it would ever change, right, per exception page. Now, again, I don't know enough about it, so that's not really my focus. But I think the long story short is this one line would allow us to leverage everything else. So it's basically add this function. I gotta kind of know this to go make the PR, but it's basically add this function and then put this here. With some better styling. And that's kind of my initial pass. I don't think this is bad. I mean, let me know what's in the chat, but like I feel like maybe just tucking this up a little bit more and maybe even like an extra small or like a sub gray on it. Like what are some of these other colors that are getting used? I mean, that already has the color, so like it's all built in. So I don't want to change the style too much. I really just want to mess with its positioning. So yeah, it's already in a div. It's already -2, which isn't really doing anything, but I can mess with margin. We can just do it ourselves, margin top. This won't be exact, but we can say like -1 EM just to demonstrate. See, this is where my PHP brain is. There it is, right there. Boom. That easy. Why not? Why not have it there? Right? It's clickable. It's beautiful. It aligns with everything else in here. Again, I shouldn't say that. That's a bit jarring. But again, this exception was thrown here. And if we go back and we mess with web again, oh, did I kill it? Yeah, I killed it. Whoops. PHP artisan serve, and this isn't gonna go because I have this now. So we won't have the same spacing, but I want to demonstrate what a more practical error page might look like. Yeah, see, again, if that were tucked up with this a little bit better, in my opinion, not too close, you know, you want some spacing. But I think if that were tucked up right there, why not? And again, 9 times out of 10, these are going to align. It just puts it there a little more conveniently. I'm going to PR this. I'm going to PR this with the proper margins once I get Node linked up. So anyway, I'll PR this. I'll share it on Twitter. We'll see if it gets in. But as a 25-year PHP programmer veteran, I gotta see the line number right there with the exception. My brain's there. I want to see it. So anyway, good stuff. All right. Thanks everybody for joining live. I'll see you next Wednesday.